All right, good evening, everybody. Very interesting. What's going on today? Obviously, Andy Murray's back in Grand Slam tennis for the first time in a year, and he wins his first game, which is a good sign. I'm positive for British tennis. Jose Mourinho is a big talking point at the moment, isn't he? I don't know how long Mourinho will last as United manager. I don't know what's going on there, but uh, I think the lack of signings in the transfer window is now having an effect. I think some of the players are underperforming for how much they're paid. And I think his tactics aren't helping some of the other players in the squad who are more attack minded because they're too defensive and conservative in their outlook. And I think that's holding United back. If you look at obviously the MotoGP, we did a video on that and the failure at Silverstone. The Silverstone track has been, has had all its flaws highlighted massively on a world stage the weekend. Really embarrassing. Obviously, next year is the last year the F1 will be there for a while, if at all, ever again. The track surface, the issues with that have been laid bare. I think the drainage is a big issue at Silverstone. A lot of people are unhappy and they're demanding refunds after the shambles that was the Sunday at the MotoGP. We'll have to see what happens with all that in time. But that was a shambles. That was really embarrassing for British motorsport, really embarrassing for sport in general in the UK. But there we go. I mean, I'm afraid we've got the fourth test for England and India coming up at the Rose Bowl down in Hampshire this week, so that's going to be interesting. Obviously, Johnny Bairstow's apparently been declared fit to play and keep wicket and to bat, so that could be interesting. What happens there? Obviously, the whole Ben Stokes shouldn't he play? For England at the moment, whilst the ECB begin their investigations, up for debate. There's a lot of things going on, and obviously that's in the background. On a different note, the channel's now hit 350 subscribers. That's another little milestone that we've ticked off. We've hit over 70,000 views. That's another little milestone we've ticked off. So on that note, some positive news for the channel. We're aiming to get remonetized and to get back into making money on the channel again, and that's something we're going to have to look forward to for the future, which means I can do more features on the channel, such as super chat and other bits and pieces. Obviously, thank you very much. Obviously, the channel's not where I want it to be. It's taking longer to get remonetized and to get back to 1,000 views than I want, which is really annoying. But it is what it is. We have to go through the rules on YouTube that they set these days after the Logan Paul fiasco over last Christmas. So the last 10 months on the channel's been really hard because of that, but it makes it more worthwhile every time I get a new subscriber and every time we get another 1,000 views out of the way. It makes it more fun. It makes it more enjoyable. It makes it more worthwhile doing it. That's that really, isn't it? But the channel is fun, and I like having your questions on these live streams and then seeing what sports you guys enjoy and what topics you want to talk about. And I'm more than happy to research so many sports and so many teams and so many athletes and individual players that's why I got the whiteboard, so I can put more notes on the board, take more detail, go into more depth about. The reason why I got demonetized is because obviously Logan Paul with the Suicide Forest did his thing, and I don't have 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 hours of view time, so I don't meet their requirements anymore, even though I'd obviously done nothing wrong. Didn't meet YouTube's current requirements, and that's why I got demonetized. So the goal is to hit 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 hours of view time, hence why I do a lot of live streams, just to get the view time hours up. And I've made a lot of subscribers through live streams, so it's kind of a useful tool to have to interact more with you guys, the viewers. So it makes it easier to understand what you guys, what sports you guys like, what teams you support, who's your favorite athletes and players, and then I can do my research on said sport, said team, said player, and hence the whiteboard, which is down here out the way at the moment, because to be honest, in this light it's really hard to use the whiteboarding and get it visible enough for you guys to see what I've got on the board, and it's it's dark and it's late, and the lighting is. There are things I can do for lighting. But that takes a bit of money, and money's a bit tight. Yeah, I'm not surprised Scunthorpe United have named a new manager. But I'm surprised they went through with the sacking, considering that they only hired him in May. That was a really strange move, I felt. Um, the Notts County one I can understand because Kevin Nolan had been there for a while, and they didn't really their league form in 2018 hasn't been great. I mean, 8 wins in 30 games or something. That doesn't do it. Obviously, both Scunthorpe and Notts County want to go up the football ladder, but the way Scunthorpe handled it, sacking him, wasn't great. Notts County is a bit more of an interesting case because they are propping up the football league. They cannot afford to get relegated out of the football league. They've had money issues in the past. They need to be more positive with their league position and their league direction. Obviously, also today we've had Jamie Vardy and Gary Cahill announce their international retirements. I think Cahill obviously wanted to have assurances about his role in the squad. I think England could have used his experience in some of the games at the World Cup because at times England's defence looks shaky and mistake prone. Vardy, again, I think the tactics suited Jamie Vardy's playing style because most of the goals came from set plays. The fact that defenders got a lot of those goals as well. The thing is, Harry Kewell is another ex-player who's turned manager, which is good to see. And he's still young enough to, could have been still playing personally. But I think Harry Kewell had a hard start at Crawley. It was a bit wobbly in his first, few months of Crawley. It didn't look great. Crawley kept faith, which I think is a really important thing in football. There's not enough owners who, give the manager time to settle in and to, get the philosophy across. Not enough owners give managers time. I think because the amount of money in football now, it is really now a money results game. Money comes first, results as well. You have to win from day one. Some of the top level clubs in the Premier League, they demand success straight away, and it just doesn't happen. There's only 4 trophies you can go for in the Premier League. If you're at the in the Premier League, you can only go for the Premier League title, the League Cup, the FA Cup, and whatever European competition you're in, be it Europa League or Champions League. You can only win 4 titles. You can't. That means only 4 clubs maximum can win those titles. So that means a lot of clubs aren't, and a lot of these owners are demanding access straight away. Evening, Kevin. Nice to see you on stream, mate. I apologise for not, getting more involved in your live streams, but I've been getting a lot of videos out there, a lot of content. I've been trying to catch up that month off I had. But it's good to see you. And it's good to see you've hit 1,000 subscribers now. So you've won our little battle that we were neck and neck for a long time, and you've forged ahead. And sadly, I've languid behind. But is what it is. On the Mourinho point, I can see a lot of parallels with his second spell at Chelsea. The falling out with the board over transfer policy, the falling out with players, the media. I don't think he's going to last out the season myself. And if he does, I don't think they'll be next season. He hasn't won the league with them. They don't look close for competing. Yes, he has improved their league position every season he's been there. The 2 seasons he's been there, he's improved their league position, which is, I think, a good thing. He's only won the 1 trophy. And the way they lost that FA Cup final against Chelsea was painful watching because that was the worst cup final I think I've ever seen in my lifetime. That was a painful cup final. There was not enough creativity by both sides, considering some of the players on show. Well, Watford have had a really good start to the season, and Burnley have had a little tough start because obviously the Europa League qualifying. They played more games than other Premier League clubs, but I think Sean Dyche has really got a good mentality at that squad and has got a good squad unity, which United lack. Watford have spent a lot of money, and their goal is obviously to get European football as a minimum. But they've had a really good start, 3 straight. They're unbeaten. They're in, they're joint top with Tottenham and Liverpool. I think that's going to be a hard game. I think both games are going to be hard games. Burnley are local rivals to United historically, going back to the formation of the Football League. They've always been rivals. I think they're going to be tough to play against. I think Watford, they're full of confidence. They have no fear, and I really do think Mourinho is in a catch-22. He has to get at least one win out of those two games. I think he's more likely to win against Burnley than Watford, because Burnley have also had a really poor start to the season in the league so far. That's going to be tough. I don't think he sees out the season. I really don't. I think he's really up against it. I think he's lost a bit of his sparkle, but his tactics as well are a bit dated now. You can play conservative defensive tactics as long as you have a very good counter attack and you counter attack quickly. But they're not. When they get the ball back, they're slow, they're plodding, and they're too measured in possession, in the sense that they slow the ball down far too much. If you're going to play conservative defensive tactics, have a strong, quick, swift counter attack. Pogba and Mata and Sanchez should be the perfect players for quick, swift counter attacks. But they're always stopping with the ball and then they're looking sideways or looking backwards for support. Ashley Young is not a left back. He's got no left foot and he can't stand on his two. He dives a lot as well. It's another thing I don't like about Ashley Young. He falls over, like he sneezes and he falls over, which is another reason why I'm going off football. And I know all the questions so far have been football based. That's because you're all football fans. But if this was more of a rugby live stream with more rugby fans or cricket fans, you'll see how I respond differently. I think football, a lot of these players have got to stop throwing themselves to the floor. Players like Ashley Young. League One and League Two. This is a hard one, because I think, looking at it, very open. I think Peterborough is going to be League One with the way they've started. I really do think that. League Two is a far harder league to really predict. And it's a tough one with League Two. League One, I think, will beat Peterborough with the way they're going. But they've been a yo-yo club between League One and Championship. They get in the Championship for a season or two, and then they fall back down to League One again. Well, I think Peterborough are too, good enough to get into the Championships. Whether they can stay in the Championship, League Two is far tougher to predict. But it is that. And yes, I agree completely as well with the diving. This is the reason why my favourite sport is ice hockey, and my other favourite sports are both codes of rugby. Is like, players play hurt. They take some big hits. They don't fake. If you're seen simulating an injury, you can get penalised. In ice hockey, that does happen. You can get penalised and put in the penalty box. So your team actually not only gives away possession, but you're off the ice. You can't contribute to your team for 2 minutes. And then you can get match penalties for disrespecting an official, or you can get thrown out of the game for it. I think football needs to look more stringently at players conning the refs. That's why I think VAR is going to have to be implemented, because it will stop players trying to con officials and get players booked and sent off, because it's embarrassing and it's cheap. It's basically like a cheap shot. It's really cheap. Notts County, I think they can get out of the situation they're in. Because they've given such a head start to so many teams, they're going to have to, when they do get a manager in, be it Harry Kewell or anyone else, they're going to have to go on a crazy run, because to give league rivals, which is everyone in the league, because everyone in the league, their goal is to win as many games as possible. If you're giving the rest of your league rivals a 4, 5, 6 game head start, be it in wins or X amount of points, be it 7 to 12 point head start, it's going to be hard. I think, yes, they got playoffs last year, but look at Shrewsbury. They got playoffs last year as well. They're also struggling at the bottom of League One. So it's all about, if you got to playoffs, if you've got a league with a playoff structure and you've got to playoffs, you want to take that next step and get out, either get promotion. It's going to be tough. I think they can survive in League Two. I really think they can avoid relegation, but they need to get a manager in quick. They need to start winning games and have that positive voice in the dressing room and some positive, things going on. They need to do it quick. The longer this winless run continues, the harder it gets. And in a league like League Two, when the league below is the non-league, that is massive financially. That's a killer. So they have to, if it's going to be Harry Kewell, they've got to agree with Crawley to get him out of his contract to Crawley and get him in as quick as possible. But they need to turn it around quickly. Uh, the lower leagues don't give you time. You go on a really long run without a win or without any points for that matter. It's hard, and it's the lower leagues are brutal. They're cutthroat. You cannot afford to give any of your rivals any kind of head start. And it's tough. It is tough. But I think they have more than enough to stay up. Whether they can get playoffs or direct promotion, they've got to basically go on like a 15 game winning streak, which I don't think is likely. They need to start winning games and then picking up draws as well where they can against tough opposition. That's what they need to do. But we'll have to see what happens. Obviously, football, you aim to win every game. You don't aim to lose games. You want to win every game. You're not going to win every game. It's impossible to win every single game. But they do need to have some kind of more positive voice in that dressing room. They need to have a few more positive tactics, maybe, and they need to look. Players need to look at themselves as well and go, "We've underperformed. We've cost the manager his job." Those players need to look at each other and go, "We haven't played well enough." They should be angry with themselves. That should demand a reaction in the next game. But it is what it is. You're not going to win every game. There are going to be some defeats in there, but I do think that he'd been there a while as manager, and it didn't work out in the end. Not enough was done getting new players in, strengthening the squad, and the start of the season has just not been good enough. It is what it is. But it is good to see that ex-players like Harry Kewell and Frank Lampard and Steven Gerrard and Kevin Nolan, all of whom have played in the Premier League, take that first step into management. That is a good sign. We need more young managers in the game. We don't have enough coming through. There's not enough young managers willing to, or ex-players who recently retired willing, to give management a go. A lot of them do go into the punditry work and the media work. And I don't blame them for that. It's more guaranteed work, really. They can do it for 10, 20, 30 years and earn a good salary out of that and earn a good living because they've got to do something after football. That's what people tend to forget after football. What do these players do? But we do need to get more and more ex-players taking up their coaching badges and getting into coaching and managerial roles. We really do, because not enough of them do for various reasons. A lot of them are put off by the lack of job security, and that is a problem. It's the lack of job security in modern football, and that needs to be addressed. I think the amount of sackings that happen, I have predicted that there'll be about 30 this season. We've already seen 3 in the Football League. We've seen several in the non-league. I think Mourinho is the most likely Premier League manager to get the chop. Pellegrini will be second, because West Ham haven't started well. So West Ham haven't got a win. I think West Ham haven't got any points. They're bottom of the Premier League. So that's another club that is, under a lot of, and a lot of scrutiny. And that's another manager under a hell of a lot of pressure. So the amount of money that West Ham have spent this summer. But it's interesting that Mourinho is coming up a lot, and surprised West Ham hasn't been mentioned so far. They've spent a lot of money. They brought a lot of players in. It's going to take time to gel that squad together. It's whether Sullivan and Gold give Pellegrini time. They've gone through a lot of managers at West Ham, a lot of managers. So it is what it is. I mean, the longest serving manager in the Premier League now is Eddie Howe at Bournemouth. So that says something about the modern game. Now that Wenger's retired, Eddie Howe is the longest serving manager at a club, followed by Sean Dyche. So that says something about the state of the Premier League at the moment. The managerial turnaround is going up and up and up. So that's something else that football needs to look at, is trying to stabilise the game in some areas. I've discussed salary caps, capping agents' fees, capping transfer fees. They're all things that not just the Premier League but all leagues could do, which may create some stability, where it limits how much you can spend. But football seems to be a sport that doesn't want to do that. Other sports have gone in with salary caps and wage caps, with various levels of success, and transfer caps. So there are various levels of success in whatever league you look at, whatever sport you look at. Football, for some reason, doesn't want to do that or go down that path. I think it will be forced to at some point. But that's another question for another video, and that's another topic we can discuss on. I can do a video on, is should football have a salary and transfer cap? Definitely the agents' fees need to be looked at, and how the role of agents in the game, because that is a big area of concern right now in football. But that's another video, I think, or another series of videos for another time. But it is what it is. I think Mourinho is, yes, under a lot of pressure. But it is what it is. Oh yeah, like look, if you were to put in a salary cap, you got to look at how other leagues do it and what the biggest salary cap is for a league, and I believe that is the NBA. The NBA, I think, is the league with the highest salary cap, and you got to look at some of the contracts some of these players are on. Big money. The NFL has got a quite high salary cap as well. Some of you know, it is what it is. But yeah, the amount of money in, I mean, the ticket price is too high. I think there's got to be a cap on ticket prices, because half the teams in the league 2 years ago could have let us in for free, and the other half could have let us in for a tenner, and still all made a profit. So the TV deal and the pay for the subscription sports TV deals that they've had since the Premier League was brought in with Sky Sports and now BT Sport, and they've obviously had Santa and ITV Sport in there as well at various points. That was designed to keep costs down for the fan, and it hasn't happened. So there has to be a point somewhere where the sport has to go into making the sport more accessible for fans, and trying to keep costs down, because look at the amount of clubs that have got massive racked with massive debts, and look at those clubs that are having to break financial fair play just to stay competitive or get to the next league, like Wolves. Some clubs have just bottomless pits of cash, like Man City. Other clubs don't, like your Burnleys and your Bournemouths. They're all on a shoestring budget, and they've proven that they can stay competitive in the league they're in, which is great to see. But it shouldn't be the case. You want to put the best product out there, and if you look at other sports and other leagues, they do. They make it more competitive, where every team has a fighting chance rather than just a few. And I think that actually improves the level of play from across the board, and it makes it more fun to watch when any team can beat any team, and not one team is completely dominant, because you just got to look at the Premier League's history, and half Premier League titles have gone to Man United, and that's not necessarily a good thing. But it is what it is. I think the Premier League and football in general needs to look at itself. And with this threatened La Liga strike, that could bring salary caps and agents' fees into it, and transfer caps into it, because obviously the La Liga wants to take regular season games to the US on a 15-year deal, and the players don't want to play ball. The fans have a big say in how Spanish football is run, because they vote club presidents in. They have a stake in their club. So that's going to be a very interesting thing when they have their next meeting in September, when the AFE, which is the Spanish Players Union, have their next meeting. That salary cap, wage cap, or agents' fees, that will come up. I have no doubt, and that could have far-reaching consequences for the game, not just in Europe but also South America and around the world. Also, I can't see the MLS being happy with a European league playing competitive matches in the US. Pre-season friendlies is one thing. Competitive matches, when they're trying to grow the game there, that's going to cost the MLS clubs money. So I can see them also resisting, because the start of La Liga and the end of La Liga overlaps with the start and end of the MLS season. And I don't see the MLS wanting to play ball with La Liga on that one either. So that's a much far wider thing. The fact that the Liga is trying to forge ahead without consulting the players, you need the players on board to have any kind of overseas tournament or overseas games, and the players don't want to play ball. They're not happy with it. And these are some of the top paid. These are some of the big paid players in Spain, and they're like, nope, we don't agree to this. So I can see strike action being threatened, and I can see it being more and more likely the longer that rumbles on. But I can't see La Liga pulling out of their 15-year contract with this US media company. I just cannot see it happening. That's why I think football's gone too far. I think that the amount of money in football has reached a point now where it's gone too far, and there's going to be a breaking point. And you lose your home based fans. That's your breaking point, and I think football's starting to do that. I think it really is starting to do that now. I think we've reached a point now where tickets, just match day tickets, one-off match day tickets are too high. Season tickets are going up each year. Away tickets are badly done. There's no cap on away tickets prices. Merchandise prices are too high, considering that the amount of money that it actually costs to make a replica jersey for what they're sold for is a disturbing markup. It's a disgusting markup. Uh, if the kids, yes, kids in sweatshops that make those jerseys, like Man United's jersey, 140 quid. That kid's paid less than $1 a day. It's paid less than, I think, 20p per jersey, whatever it is. There's got to be a point where enough is enough. And with the age of social media and the response on social media to Man City's new jersey, that was very negatively received by fans. Man United's jersey, the price of it, and the working conditions for those who make it, not well received. There's got to be a breaking point somewhere. There will have to be, and a lot of these owners and chairmen and those who invest in the clubs know what social media is all about, the power of it. There's only so far they can take it, I think, before we vote as a wider consumer of the sport. We're not fans anymore; we're consumers now. We're treated abysmally, but without the fans, the sport is nothing. And they want to sell these TV deals. Try selling that TV deal when the stadium is completely empty, because that is what the end result will be: is empty stadiums or lots of empty seats, and that looks really, really, really crap for live TV. I saw it a lot in the FA Cup last season. A lot of games on which the BBC had, a lot of empty seats. So there is some kind of disconnect between fans and the modern game, and I think that gap is growing. The disconnect. But that's my personal opinion. I mean, others can disagree with that opinion and say they have their own view on it. But my view is, I think modern football is losing touch with its traditional fan base. I think the football league's rules at turnover. You've got to look at the amount of clubs that made a loss the season before last. Only 3 clubs in the championship made a profit, I believe, 3 or 4 pre-tax. I think 3 post-tax profits. Those clubs didn't get playoffs or promotion or relegation. They were mid-table clubs. The clubs that got relegated or were in the bottom end of the table lost money. Those chasing promotion lost money. I think we have to look at a wage cap and agents' fees and transfer cap at the value you can pay for a transfer, because there was a negative reaction from some in Italy over the Ronaldo transfer at 105 million. Neymar's transfer for that $250 million, I think, has really heightened the debate and overinflated the transfer market, considering his performance in the World Cup was nothing short of a joke. And his salary is disgusting. The fact that so many players who paid big money, they're paid massive amounts of money, or avoiding their taxes as well, doesn't sit well with some, or shouldn't sit well with anyone, to be honest. The amount of players who played in the Spanish league who've managed to cut deals with prosecutors to avoid prison, but haven't paid their tax for years, is disgusting. The amount they're paid. So I have no sympathy for them. When Danny Rose came out and said he felt he was underpaid at 50 grand a week, I'm sorry, I have little sympathy for someone who's paid as much as I earn in 3 years in a week. I've got no sympathy for anyone like that. I really don't. I think, wage cap has to be a thing, because I'm actually running out of sympathy for some of these overpaid players, and they really are. I do find and feel that a lot of football players and some other sports stars as well in other sports are grossly overpaid, and I have very little sympathy for them when they say we're not paid enough. Simple. Right, we have a new viewer. I'm in football. I'm a Blackburn fan. Have been my entire life really since I was 3 years old. So I'm a Rovers fan. for me sins, and that's before the Premier League was even a thing. So anyone calls me a glory supporter from the early 90s is mistaken. I've been supporting them in the old Division 1 days when pitches were mud baths and you could tackle without a player diving. I'm that old. I'm nearly 30, so I go about far. Rugby union, I'm an Exeter Chiefs fan. Rugby league, I like the NRL over the Super League, so I like the Canberra Raiders in rugby league. And ice hockey, I support my local British team where I live. And in the NHL, I'm a Winnipeg Jets fan, so I've covered all the teams I support. But I have the first professional game I ever went to in football was at Anfield back in 1996. It was December 6th or December 7th. It was for my birthday, for my 7th birthday, and I went to see Liverpool play Sheffield Wednesday at Anfield. And Sheffield Wednesday won that game 1-0 in the snow, I seem to remember. Got the train up from Euston. And I still have the programme fully signed by both sets of players and managers. And even though I wore my Blackburn shirt that day, and one Kenny Dalglish did sign my Blackburn jersey that day because he'd only recently left as Blackburn manager, and obviously he's a legend at Blackburn as well as Liverpool for his managerial exploits. And yeah, I've still got all the signed programme and the signed jersey and fond memories of the day. 22 years ago. God, I'm that old. God, I'm old. Yeah, 22 years ago I went to Anfield. Because Sheffield Wednesday in the Premier League, that just shows how old I am. If we're going about Premier League, I'm going to go for a toss-up between two clubs. I think Liverpool and Man City. I think Tottenham, because they haven't added in the transfer window because of their stadium issues, I think that could become a bit more of a distraction as the season goes on. I think some other clubs will surprise this season. I think Everton and Watford are going to have some good seasons. I think Watford have started the season really, really well. So it's good to see some other clubs in the top half of the table in the mix early on. Hopefully they can continue the momentum and finish and improve their league position. I'll expect Bournemouth to improve their league position from last year. The clubs I'm concerned about, I mean, my team is in the Premier League, but I'm looking at some clubs that I think there's some issues with. And I think Man United is one, West Ham is another, and I think Newcastle. The other three I have big concerns about really struggling this season. My top six in order. I'm actually going. I think Liverpool will win the league this season. I think Man City are going to find it tough with De Bruyne out for 3 months to maintain that momentum from last year. And I think Man City still have a few issues with their side. I think there's a few flaws in Man City's side that still need to be fixed, primarily in defence. And De Bruyne out is a big miss. So I'll go Liverpool, Man City, Tottenham. This is where it's tough because I think Chelsea and Arsenal have got new managers and new philosophies being put in place. I'm going to go Chelsea and Arsenal, 4 and 5, and I think Watford might get top 6. I think Watford might get top 6. Yeah, I do think Watford could get 6th place, but that could be Everton, that could be Burnley, could be Man United, that could be Bournemouth. I actually think Bournemouth could really go up the table this season. Eddie Howe has done a very, very good job, and I do think that the way he's grown that team year on year and improved them year on year, and the owners have kept faith even through the difficult spells he's had. I do think Bournemouth are a side that could be under the radar this season, really under the radar, who could sneak up on a few teams. They were showing signs last season. They got at the top half of the table. I think they could be a team to watch out for. But honestly, it's every list is subjective. Every league subjective. To get relegated, I think looking at it right now and how things are going, I think Cardiff they're going back down. Cardiff I'm going Cardiff and Newcastle are going to be 2, and I think Fulham. I will say Fulham. I think Huddersfield have got a bit of something about them. I think they're going to get a lot of draws and pick up a few wins that are going to be crucial. I think Cardiff are definite. Newcastle are a maybe. But don't forget West Ham. West Ham haven't gelled yet. This West Ham team, it could be hit or miss with West Ham. So watch West Ham. If they don't start getting points, even a draw, anything positive. But I do think Huddersfield have got a little bit about them. They had enough fight last season. I think they've got enough fight this season. They should have that kind of battle hard and grit, that they should scrape it. But I think Fulham could be around the cusp as well. Cardiff, I think, are definite. And then you just got to look at some of the other clubs that look a little bit below par at the moment. There's one or two that really could be getting a hammer in some games this season. Huddersfield have had the worst defeat so far of the season, but I think there's one or two others who could have a struggle this season. Well, nice to see you. Thank you very much for joining in tonight. I appreciate it. Have a good evening, and I hope to see you again on our live stream soon. But my 3 teams. It's too early in the season to say for certain who's going to go down and who's going to win. But you can sort of project. But predicting, I had no hope of predicting last night. Or last season, sorry. In any sport, I try to predict so many things, and it was almost impossible. It really was almost impossible to predict who was going to win, who was going to lose, who was going to draw. It was so all over the place. These are random bits of sporting knowledge that even I don't know, and I know a fair bit of random sporting crap. But there you go, Macclesfield penalty shootout. Avoid them. It's like Matt Letizia. You give him a penalty, he'll score 46 out of 47. So there are obviously that's something that, as a club, historically and going forward, they're very good at. And obviously, their backroom coaching staff have worked out when it comes to knockout games and cup games. That's something, if they know they're going to go to extra time and penalties, historically they're good at. So they work on it. That just shows good coaching. Mark Crosley. But there you go. That's the honest thing. There's some clubs that traditionally are very good at certain things, be it developing players, a certain style of play, beating certain teams. There are certain teams that they have a good record against, and their record is being good at penalty shootouts. It's one of those. It's one of them stats that the advanced stats nerds really, really like. Well, it depends. In what league and in what situation, be it a shootout or in open play, in the actual game. Messi at the World Cup did miss penalties. He missed a penalty at the World Cup, and it was very easily saved. Honestly, I couldn't really tell you the best penalty taker is in the top flight, because you could say Jamie Vardy's good at taking penalties. You could say Harry Kane's good at taking penalties. Kieran Trippier, there you go. There's a player who's very good at set plays. He proved it in the World Cup, and he's proved it again in the league. There were some players, Matt Letizia, for example, who were very, very good. There are other players who just really are absolutely appalling. Gerrard was always a good penalty taker. Milner's a very good penalty taker. Some clubs have a better penalty record than others, and some players are very, very good, and some players, not so good. Again, it's all subjective. What people think, who is the best at something, who is the worst. Ricky Lambert had a great penalty record for Southampton. I think he did miss a few for Bristol Rovers, but for Southampton, he didn't miss. Southampton are very good at having a penalty taker who can score every time. Matt Letizia missed one penalty out of 47. So Southampton very good at finding, having faith and having a very good penalty taker who's designated. It is what it is. Some teams just have that kind of luck. But it's like looking at for and against records when you're comparing two sides, what their records are and every time they've played. And some clubs do struggle against certain other clubs or don't win for a long period of time. So for Tottenham to beat Man United at Old Trafford hasn't happened since 1972. They finally got over that hurdle that's been in their way for the best part of 46 years. Some of these clubs go on these runs where they just cannot win at a certain ground or cannot beat a certain side, home or away, for a long period of time. And then when they finally do it, then they go on a run of not losing to that side. It's just how sport goes. There's a lot of luck involved, and there's a fair bit of skill, but there's also a lot of luck, and it is what it is. But Ricky Lambert was very good at penalties and free kicks, exceptionally good dead ball specialist. Um, it's a shame he had to retire because of a back injury last year. Very underrated player, hard-working player as well. Obviously not the most skillful, not the quickest, but his work ethic is, I think, what most professionals should aspire to. He was very good at work ethic, considering he was told at age 15 he wasn't good enough. Went became played in the non-league, also worked in a factory whilst playing in non-league, and ended up being, an England player. So same with Grant Holt. Told he wouldn't make it, worked the lower leagues and the non-league, ended up getting to Premier League. Jamie Vardy wins the Premier League. Some of these lesser players that aren't necessarily the world class players are some of the better role models for budding players. Work ethic and hard work and determination and sometimes having to also have a second job, being part-time non-league player, and you can still make it into the football league and then make it to the heady heights of being an international or a Premier League player. It's doable. Those three proved you can do it. But it is tough. Like 90% of deadline price. Well, there are rules on if you can change your national side. I know, obviously, Diego Costa played 3 caps for Brazil before playing for Spain. But you've got to look at the amount of young players with dual nationality that England have overlooked over the years, like Wilfried Zaha. He decided to choose, his parents' African heritage for his national side. Victor Moses. Okay, Victor Moses, we can debate how good he actually is, but he decided to choose Nigeria. Very young, promising player. I think Wes Morgan has chosen one, the Caribbean nation he's from. A lot of players who could have played for England have decided to choose, one or either of their parents, national. I mean, Ryan Giggs and Robbie Savage could have played for England. So and look what they went and did in the game. Robbie Savage isn't, a solid midfield player, but look at Ryan Giggs. Both of them could have played for England. Both chose Wales. So, and it's the same in rugby as well. The same issue applies in rugby. Several of the Welsh players could have played for England. Some of the Scottish players could have played for England, and vice versa. There is an issue with for some reason with England, be it cricket, rugby union, rugby league, and football, where some players decide to play for other countries, even though they are eligible to play for England. There is an issue there. Whatever reason. But it is what it is. I mean, I haven't got UFC 3. I didn't like UFC 2. I'm not a big fan of EA Sports games, so I won't be getting it. Well, that is an interesting point. The thing is, if I had the ability to through heritage or passport, it depends because my cousins are half Italian, and there was a period of time where one of my cousins was getting scouted. Well, actually, 2 of my cousins were getting scouted by rugby clubs. They got Italian passports and British passports. But I said to them, if you ever get approached to play for a national side, play for Italy, you have more chance of representing, and they'll probably have more intensive coaching for you in that sense. They have a smaller talent pool anyway, and you're more likely to get an appearance and represent at international level, which is a very select handful of players, get to do that. Yeah. So I said to them, choose Italy over England. Yeah, England's got more money at rugby level and in rugby union, but I said if you ever get the chance, choose Italy. You're more likely to get an appearance and play international rugby than if you chose England. Because Italy selection rules, you can play wherever you want in the world and get selected. England selection rules, you have to play in England. So if they were to go down a professional union career and they would say, I would play in France, They can't get selected for England, so selection rules as well have something to play with it. If a Huddersfield player has just scored an own goal from the halfway line, that's gonna go on question of sport. That is gag reel material. NHL 16 is not the best NHL game there is. I did have it. I had it for a while. Um, it depends on if you go do the online. But the thing is, it will help you understand understand the sport and understand the NHL and understand ice hockey, because obviously you get to see all the players, and you get to work out where all the teams are and how good they are and how bad they are. But NHL 19 will have British sides in it. So when NHL 19 comes out in October, I'd advise you to get that, because it'll have the British sides from the Elite League in it, and it will give you the ability to understand how the sport works, because it's a lot more complicated than people realise, with the trade system, the salary cap, and restricted free agents, unrestricted free agents. Also, and I can't stress this enough. There is another channel I follow. He's called the Hockey Guy. He's really good at explaining the game for new viewers and new fans. Um, really good watch. Obviously, he's in Canada, so we're 8 hours ahead of him. But just check out some of his videos. He can really explain. You'll pick up a lot by watching. Some of you might have to go back and watch some of his older videos, but he's really good, and a lot of people have got into the sport or learnt more about the sport through watching him. He's a really good watch. He's kind of funny as well. Um, he puts a lot of effort in. It's his full time job now. Yeah, that's his channel name, the Hockey Guy. He if you're new to the sport, which you are, I really advise checking him out. He's a good watch. He's very down to earth. He used to work full time like I did whilst having a channel. And then his channel got big, and he was able to quit his full time job and just solely focus on the sport he loves. And he's been watching the sport since 1981, so he knows his stuff. He's really funny. Um, you just got to try and understand his Canadian accent a little bit, but he's also good for the newcomers to the sport. So if you see a video, just say, "Look, I'm new to the sport, being recommended this channel by insert subscriber name here," because he knows who I am, because I've got him on Twitter, and I've sent him a few of my hockey jerseys and programs for his collection, and you will learn a lot about the sport very quickly. And he's really good at what he does. He knows far more about ice hockey than I do, and I know a fair bit. And it's just uh, he's a very interesting. I mean, obviously the NHL is not for everyone, but it will give you a good basis for learning the sport more and understanding more about the sport in the US and Canada, where it's obviously quite big, and where every player wants to play in the NHL. The NHL is the top league in ice hockey. Every player wants to play at least one game in their career. Um, and check out. I mean, you will learn a lot by watching, and you will learn a lot, through him. He has an insane amount of knowledge, insane amount, and you will pick up a lot very quickly. The thing is, we're 8 hours ahead, so he covers all the games in the NHL. He actually covers every single game in the NHL, every single playoff game, every single trade. The guy is a hockey encyclopedia, and I cannot stress enough how much you'll learn from him. He's a really great watch, and he's really entertaining as well. I try and watch as much of it. It's basically my free time is spent watching his channel. I've watched a lot of it. His channel is it teaches a lot, and if my channel can get half as decent as his, I'll be pretty happy. I will be pretty happy if my channel can get halfway to what his channel is. I'll be really happy, because he has an insane amount of knowledge, far more than I could ever have. But he does focus on the one sport, and I focus on, well, all of them. So I have to try and remember a lot of stuff. But he has got knowledge going back 30, 40 years. Um, how do you avoid paying child support? It's called not having kids. Maybe just putting that one out there. How about you don't have kids, then you don't have to pay child support? There you go. Practice safe sex. There you go. You don't have to have kids, then, do you? Um, Quite a simple one. Or yeah, change your name. Feel free, if just say you're a British ice hockey fan. You know, uh, and that you've just got into the sport recently, you can tell them how you got into the sport. Just put it in the comments. A lot of recently got into the sport. I follow one of my local teams here in the UK, etc., etc., and that's what you got to put into the old comments section there. Really, I mean, it is what it is. As long as you keep enjoying the sport and you keep going and you keep interacting with it, it's fine. I'm actually kind of glad that I got you into the sport by pure accident, but that's what it is about. I mean, the sport is trying to grow in this country, and it's trying to grow in the US, and it's one of there's a reason why it's my favourite sport. Players don't fake injuries. Players play on. Oh, how do I think it can grow here? Well, they've got a TV deal now with Free Sports. The Elite League is bigger now than what it was last year, even though a team has gone out of business. The teams in the league below, there's a few teams that want to go up to the Elite League, I believe. More kids are playing it. There's the national side have done very well. The success of the men's national side, the success of the women's national side as well. The women's game is growing massively at youth level in the age groups. We're getting better. We've had Liam Kirk get drafted by the NHL by Arizona Coyotes in the draft this summer. Ben O'Connor's now playing in the Swedish Hockey League, which is one of the top European leagues. We're doing well against other European teams in the Challenge Hockey League, which is basically the ice hockey equivalent of the Champions League that we have in football. So yeah, it's getting there, and you can watch a lot of free live streams or pay per view live streams on their YouTubes and streaming websites. You can still catch games if you're not able to go to your local to watch your local team play. So yeah, there are some positive. There are a few negatives. There are teams that are struggling. There are teams that have gone out of business. And I think your nearest team would be Telford. So, for example, just go to a Telford game. The pre-season is starting. It's already started for the Elite League. The pre-season starts for the National League this weekend, and I'll be going to some games. I've got 2 games that I'm going to coming up. So my weekends are going to be fun again. And yeah, I mean, it's a great sport to watch. It's a great sport to support. It really is a community sport. When I say a community sport, they do a lot of charities. They team up with. They invite schools, scout clubs, youth clubs. Rugby teams have come down and watched. Rugby players have watched and have really winced at some of the hits, which I find really funny. That big rugby players are like hiding behind hands in front of the face, going, "How have they taken that kind of hit?" Lou. But no, I like ice hockey because the players don't roll around and fake it. When they are hurt, they are hurt. I've seen players lose teeth, break arms, split lips, get completely sparkoed, like they're not on the same planet as everyone else. I've seen leg breaks. I've seen players break hands in fights. I've seen all sorts. It is a brutal game. It's not for everyone. I will say that it is not for everyone. Not everyone's gonna enjoy the sport or understand it. But the best way to understand is to watch. And I find hockey fans are very good at explaining to new casual fans who come in, maybe watch the first ever game, or only casually watch the odd game. That I find hardcore hockey fans are I think, more accepting of new fans to the sport than football fans. I really do. I honestly really, really do. It's the same with rugby fans. I think they're both league are a little bit more difficult, but union again, rugby union fans are very accepting of new fans wanting to watch the sport. But it's just I don't know if it's just the culture of the sport. The fans are more welcoming to new fans. I will admit in ice hockey, it is a bit more tribal. How does hockey get away with the GBH? Well, simple really. It's part of the culture of the game. It always has been. As long as you don't kill each other, I think it's fine. It is what it is. It's part of the sport. I've been watching the sport since '92, so it's kind of hard to explain really. But most of the guys who actually take lumps out of each other are actually mates off the ice, outside of the game. Sometimes tempers do. There are certain players who don't get on with certain players, and there's certain teams that really dislike each other. And when a player moves to that team, for example, it doesn't always work. The sport is brutal. I mean, Rugby league used to be like that as well until a couple of years ago, and rugby union as well. So it's a complicated area, but if football players were to do that, they would just roll. They wouldn't even hit each other. They'll pretend they've been slapped or headbutted and throw themselves to the floor. Hockey players will take multiple punches to the head. Um, and headbutting in ice hockey, you do that, you're done. You're getting a lengthy ban. It's in the rule book. It's actually in the rule book as well, which is interesting. It's always been part of the sport. It just is not as much of a part of the sport now as it was 20 years ago. Although fighting was up last season, so saying that we could be seeing a reverse of the trend. But it's it's how differences get settled. It is a very very brutal physical game, even without the fights. Um, it's entertaining to watch though. The fans love it. I mean, unless you've been to an ice hockey game or been to a series of them, there's not fights every game, uh, which is what a lot of people think there is. There really isn't. Um, there isn't one every game. A lot of people who don't know the sport will see clips of it on the internet and see those clips on YouTube. It doesn't happen every game. I can assure you that there are some games where there isn't really a rivalry between the two teams, and so there's not really that kind of heated rivalry. It doesn't happen. Um, and it normally happens after a very dirty, borderline hit, or there's something that's carried on from a previous game because hockey players, even though they have lots of concussions, have long memories. There's either it's carried on from a previous game where there's been a bit of bad blood, maybe some bad officiating, maybe a dirty hit or two, an injury that was avoidable, and it carries over, or there's a dirty hit. Honestly, it normally revolves around a suspected dirty hit, um, especially a player being targeted unnecessarily, maybe a skillful player just been run over. And there are more players that are dirty than others. I I wouldn't call it GBH. I would actually calling it male bonding is what I call it. I like a good, but even if there's not fighting, there's always that scrum after the whistle. There's always that push and shove. There's always the chirping and then what cricket players will call sledging. That goes between the players where they give a bit of chat, and some of the on ice banter, which can be quite nasty, is actually quite funny. Some of the things they will say to each other are quite funny. But no, it doesn't happen. Good. Oh, cool. That's good. You know, he may like and get back to you, he may not, but he will see you in the comments. And the more you watch these videos and the more you comment or go, can I learn about this sport? I'm new. The more likely he is to respond and go, yes, I can point you in the direction of a video I've done. And he is very, very good. Even if you don't comment and you just watch, you will pick up, you know, over time, more and more about the sport. The more you learn, the best way to learn about the sport is to watch as much as possible. Um, so the more games you go to and the more you read, the more you will learn. The best way to learn is to research, watch, and try and absorb as much information as possible. Some people find it really easy to pick up; others take a little bit longer. But I like the way it's got to hockey in the conversation. It's brilliant. But I remember when I had a hockey question on a live stream and you asked, and we and because of this channel, you went to a game. So that is the right spelling of Wayne. The reason why Wayne Gretzky was so good is the team he was playing on was very good as well. And the time he was playing was a very more free scoring period where you would have many 7-6 games, many games with 10 plus goals in it. He was playing at a time when most players weren't as quick as today. The game has evolved. The game is a lot more physical. The game has got quicker. But he was very good. He had very good hands, very good spatial awareness. He wasn't actually the most skillful player, um, and but he played alongside some really great players. And if you don't uh, fully follow the sport in depth, um, it, you may not have heard of some of the players. If you have got a passing knowledge, you would have heard of players like Marc Messier, and he's like the third greatest player of all time. You would have heard of players like Jaromir Jagr and Mario Lemieux and things like that. The era he was playing in, there were some really amazing players playing. Um, but also when he was playing, it was easier to score. Now, if he was playing now, he wouldn't have had the amount of goals and assists he did. So you get counted for your assist points as well. So you wouldn't have got as many goals and assists. But he still would have been possibly the best player. He wasn't the biggest though. He wasn't the most physical. He wasn't the biggest, but I think it's his attitude as well. He had a brother who played professionally, which people forget about. But he did play with four of the best teams at the time. He played with the Edmonton Oilers, the LA Kings, the St. Louis Blues, who are historically a very good side that's never won the Stanley Cup, and the New York Rangers. He played with four really, really good teams with Hall of Fame players on them. But the fact you even know who he is and that you don't really follow ice hockey is a testament to his skill and his impact on wider social, popular culture. Just watch the Mighty Ducks films. He appears in the Mighty Ducks films. Um, but his impact on wider, sporting culture, there you go. He has had that. He's like the Pele of ice hockey. He is like the David Beckham of ice hockey. A lot of people who don't really follow the sport have a rough idea who he is. Um, you could tweet, yeah. If you want to, feel free to tweet him. That's why his Twitter account is there, is to interact with viewers, and he will do his best to respond. Bearing in mind he's got over 56,000 subscribers and he gets a lot of messages daily. But he does he if you regularly comment on his videos and say, "Oh, I'm still learning the sport, but I appreciate the video, keep it up," he will recognise that in the comment section, and he will eventually reply to a comment or a tweet. Just don't bombard him with stuff. Just if you see a video you don't understand something, it's like, I'm not sure on who this player is, or I'm new to the sport, I'm from the UK, I'm not sure who this is, but I'm keen to learn. And eventually he will say, like, this guy is trying to learn the game, and he will message you. Of course, Daniel, everyone knows you support the Islanders. It's in your logo. You've got the fish sticks one. Oh, come on. You've got, as we would call, the bird's eye one. It's the most horrible jersey ever made in the NHL. It's the most horrible logo ever made in the NHL. It's that ugly. It's actually good. But yeah, what Wayne Gretzky's so good is the era he was playing in, I think, helped his numbers. But he's still the best of all time, regardless if he was playing now or 20 years ago. He really is the great one. They call him the great one. His number, his jersey number 99 is retired league wide, and because of him, so many players now play the game. If it wasn't for Wayne Gretzky, ice hockey probably wouldn't have grown as much as it has in the last 25 years in North America and in Europe if it wasn't for him, and some others as well. I've mentioned there's like Mario Lemieux. He's in the film as well. You've got Mark Messier, who's won, I think, 6 Stanley Cups, something insane like that. Yeah, 6 Stanley Cups Mark Messier's won. So he's won more Stanley Cup rings than Wayne Gretzky. So there you go. Jaromir Jagr, possibly the world's most famous mullet for the last 30 years. You've got players like Sidney Crosby now, and Conor McDavid. You've got Austin Matthews, Patrick Laine. I could Alexander Ovechkin. There are some really world-class players now who wouldn't be playing now if it wasn't for him. I haven't been following the scores, but I'll have to give that a quick check to see who scored what. So just bear with me for a few seconds. I've just been on this live stream while the games have been taking place. Oops. But it's if you've got Free Sports, the Elite League season will be on Free Sports, and the NHL is on Premier Sports. So if you've got either of those two channels, you'll be able to watch some. It's because it just hasn't got the money, because like football, rugby league, rugby union, cricket are where all the money is in British sport. It just doesn't have the money, but it does have the fan base. It does have the fan base. You'll be very surprised how big the fan base is. It's because football is the dominant sport, and then rugby league and rugby union also pretty big sports. It's a minor sport because of that. It's not that it hasn't got fans. We've got a lot of fans over here. Just where do you live? And I can tell you what your nearest team is. I could quite happily tell you what your nearest team is, and all I say is just check out their website, go down, watch a game. They're mostly on weekends as well, like Saturdays and Sundays. There's the occasional game midweek. and you'll and honestly just give it a go and enjoy it. That's the best thing I can. Salford, that will be Manchester Storm is your local team. They're in the Elite League. They're a decent side. Um, I would say give them a check. They're based in Altrincham at the moment. They're a decent side. They've had some money issues in the past. Their ice rink isn't the best for seating. It's not the greatest for watching the game. It's bad layout, but um, honestly, go down and check them out. If they're not your cup of tea, there's some teams. You got Sheffield. They got two teams. You got Nottingham, Telford, Blackburn. They got a team. So there's a few teams around, but Manchester Storm would be your local one if you're in Salford. Just check the football scores. Oh dear, oh dear. There's some really embarrassing defeats for some teams here. Really embarrassing. Some Premier League clubs are out the Football League Cup. I'm a Bracknell Bees fan, so I'm in the south of England, so I'm Bracknell Bees. I don't have an elite league team. I have a national league team, who could be in the elite league soon, depending on how things go. But yeah, I'm a Bracknell Bees fan. I live not too far from their ice rink. They've been national champions before, back in the Super League days, so a long time ago. And they are a bit of a goon squad. Is how we describe it in the hockey world. They do like a punch up, big physical side, big, big, big physical side. Should I support Rangers? Well, at the end of the day, whatever sport you follow, whatever teams you follow, that's your team. Right, let's have a look at the Football League scores quickly because I'm going to end this live stream in a little bit because it's well, I've got work in the morning, so I can't stay on all night as much as I would love to. I've got to be up in a few hours. Blackburn beat Lincoln City 4-1. Burton Albion have beaten Aston Villa 1-0. Doncaster 1, Blackpool 2. Hull have been hammered 4-0 by Derby. So well done, Frank Lampard there. Leeds, shock defeat to Preston 2-0. Leicester have hammered Fleetwood 4-0. Hammered Fleetwood. Middlesbrough beaten Rochdale 2-1. Sheffield Wednesday have been beaten by Wolves 2-0. So that's a good result for Wolves. Macclesfield Town won 3-1 on penalty over Walsall. Stoke have beaten Huddersfield due to an own goal from the players' own half. West Brom have beaten Mansfield Town 2-1. Palace have beaten Swansea 1-0, so no shocks there. West Ham have finally got a win. They've beaten Wimbledon 3-1, so West Ham have finally got a win. They needed that. They now got to go on and do it in the league. Bournemouth have beaten MK Dons 3-0. No surprise there. Brentford have beaten Cheltenham 1-0. No surprise there. Norwich have hammered Cardiff 3-1. That's concerning. Fulham beaten Exeter 2-0. No surprise there. Newport County 0, Oxford United 3. No surprise there. QPR have finally won a game. They've beaten Bristol Rovers 3-1. And Wycombe 2, Forest Green 2. Wycombe have beaten Forest Green 4-3 on penalties. So there you go. That's the Football League scores. There's a couple of shocks in there. There's one or two shocks in there. I think Derby hammering Hull 4-0. That's a good statement from Derby. Preston beating Leeds, surprised by that one. But good on West Ham finally getting a win. I think that's important for them. Really important. But Cardiff losing 3-1 to Norwich is not good. Really concerning for them. Right, back to the ice hockey. Well, yeah, if it wasn't for this channel, you wouldn't have got into ice hockey. So I'm kind of glad that I've helped with that. And yeah, the season starts in a couple of weeks, a week or so, proper season, and it's gonna be fun watching. I'm really looking forward to it myself. And yeah, the NHL's got over a month to go, but in Europe the season's already started. And yeah, I just love the sport. I really love the sport. It is so much fun. I've missed it so much. I'm glad it's back. It's been a really horrible summer without it. And yeah, it is what it is. Honestly, season ticket, it can be worth it. I never get a season ticket simply because I can't guarantee I'll be at every game. You do get a lot of benefits with a season ticket, though. A lot of benefits, especially away days. Away days are so much fun. Hockey away days are some of the best away days. They really are fun. I really enjoy a hockey away day. I've done a few of them now. They are a laugh. I'm not gonna lie, they are fun. Hockey away days are really good fun. Really enjoyable. Really enjoy doing them. I would recommend doing them as well if you can. Um, Obviously, the Elite League is nationwide: Scotland, Northern Ireland, Wales, and England. So there's a few away days you might not be able to do because they're insane away days, which even football wouldn't even do. But no, they are great, great fun. And now that the sport has got a TV deal, the first time in a few years, that is again great news. It's going to be on free sport, so that means more households get to see it. More people are exposed to it, and that's can only be positive. Um, Sky used to have the TV rights, and they nearly killed the sport in this country. So it is such great news that our top league is going to be on free sports. It's really great news for the sport. It's going to get more people watching, more people involved. But yeah, I don't inquire about a season ticket. Even you can get half season tickets. I might get a half season ticket for the second half of the season. They're on offer at times. Honestly, think about it. It's a great laugh. I mean, I can't guarantee that I can go to every game this season, but I'm definitely, really looking forward to my team season. We've got a good, you know, you get to learn who the players are, um, and it's a good laugh. I mean, it really is good fun. The best hockey team in England. Well, that's a toss up between Sheffield and Nottingham. They're the two best in England, Sheffield and Nottingham. They really hate each other, which helps. But no, Sheffield and Nottingham are traditionally your Man Uniteds and your Arsenals of the ice hockey world. They are two of the regularly at the top of the table, regularly winning. Cardiff are quite good as well in Wales. Cardiff are the best team in Wales. In fact, there's only three teams in Wales, and they're one of them. But no, definitely Nottingham, definitely Sheffield. Sheffield Steelers, Nottingham Panthers. They're two really good sides. They are far better than a lot of the English sides, and I'm being deadly honest about that. And an ex-Bracknell player now plays for Nottingham, so in Josh Tetlow. So a player we developed has gone on to the league above, and he's playing for Nottingham this season. But yeah, they're the two best English teams. Yes, there is. It's called the CHL. It's called the Champions Hockey League. So the best teams in the European leagues play each other, and British teams uh, compete in that. Edinburgh, they had money. They had money issues. They were also the worst team in the elite league. Regularly, they regularly struggled. They were a bottom feeder. Think of it like your Derby County a few years ago in the Premier League, where they only got 11 points. That was Edinburgh. They had a lack of success, um, money issues, and they ran out of money basically. Because they obviously play at Murrayfield, right next to the rugby stadium at the ice rink there. Another team that used to play called the Murrayfield Racers reformed and applied to join the elite league and try and save the team. It didn't work, so that means there's only 11 teams rather than 12 going forward. But that's still, again, this time last year there were 10 in the league, so the league is still growing. It is a shame, but they just never attracted great players. They had no success. Money issues away from off the ice. The rink is one of the oldest in the country, so that was an issue. And yeah, they just couldn't win. They had a really poor record. If you look at their record all time, they only win like 20% of their games they played in. They really were absolutely shocking, which is a shame because there were obviously fans that were going every game. There was a loyal fan base in that part of Scotland. Yes, you've got the Fife Flyers and the Dundee Stars, and now Glasgow, who've changed their name from Braehead, but it just didn't work out for Edinburgh. The Capitals never really had a solid team. They never really had any success, and hockey is a thing. Without success, you're always going to struggle to recruit. It depends on how the league is structured because there are team less. There's an odd number of teams in the league. That means every weekend a team has a rest day, every round of fixtures. Um, Honestly, I don't know about the elite league. In fact, every season is different because uh, the league structures regularly change a lot, which is a real pain. Um, but if you look at the fixture list, if you look at the fixture list for Dundee, that will give you a basic league season before the cup competitions and playoffs. That's the best way I can describe it to you. That will show you how many fixtures they have, home and away, and then you can work out that's a regular season. And then you look at playoffs, and playoffs is how far you get going because they're knockout. Um, so you're limited in how far you can. There's a minimum amount of games you can play, and there's a maximum amount of games you can play if you win playoff knockout hockey, which is a kettle of fish because you have to play home and away legs and stuff. That's really complicated to work out. Um, I think there's around 48 games a season, but don't quote me on that. There's around 48 to 50 games a season, I think, give or take a game or here. Some seasons there's more, some seasons there's less. It depends on how many teams are in the league and how long you go in the playoffs and how far you get going in that, and obviously the Champions Hockey League, the European Cup competition, how far you go in that as well. I think some of the British teams are in NHL 19. I think Nottingham, Sheffield, Cardiff are. I believe the Elite League may be in there. I don't honestly know on that, but the NHL teams are all in there. And I think the national teams are all in there as well. But I couldn't tell you. I honestly couldn't tell you. I believe they are though. Right. Any more questions? Because I'm going to wind this down. I'll take a couple of more, and then I'll be calling it a night. I really appreciate all the questions tonight. There's been some really, really interesting questions, and I just love the banter with you guys. Yeah, it's always good, good questions, good conversation, good fun. Really enjoy it. So, yeah, any more questions, anyone? Because I'm going to be. He has NHL 18. I think he probably will have it soon because it comes out in October. There's a few other uh, hockey channels on YouTube. Odd Man Rush is another good one. He's a British hockey YouTuber. He regularly plays the NHL games. So here's another YouTuber for you. Uh, Check him out. Check out Odd Man Rush. He's a British hockey YouTuber, and he does play the NHL games. He will most likely know. Yeah, I haven't watched him for a while, but he most likely will know. So check him out as well. Give him a sub. Send him a message in the comment section. Say you're new to the sport and you want to get into the sport more. Dundee Stars is one of your local teams because you've got Fife and you've got the Braehead Clan or Glasgow Clan as well. So he will most likely know if they are or not. But yeah, any other questions? Because we've been going now a bit longer than I thought. Yeah, check him out. He will probably know. He's a British YouTuber. He's from Sheffield, I believe. I believe he's from Sheffield. There's a few British hockey YouTubers out there, so feel free to check them out. Honestly, they're more likely to know than I will. And I'm being dead honest that they're more likely to know than I would. I don't really do sports games anymore. I used to, but they're not my thing anymore. So I don't know enough about EA Sports to really comment on them. That's that's my knowledge on that topic. I try my best, but that's just I honestly don't know. Right, is that everyone done? I'll take a couple more questions. I'll take two more questions if anyone's got any more questions. Oh, that's not a problem. No problem. Your local team will be the Manchester Storm. Yeah, check out their website. The regular season starts soon. Obviously, at the moment it's pre-season, but the regular season starts the next week or so, next 2 weeks. So if you want to check out an ice hockey game, just go on their website, and it's up to you if you want to go or not and check it out. But no, they don't fight every game. In response to one of your earlier questions, they don't fight every game. It's just a perception that it happens. It doesn't happen. If it's 20 years ago, yeah, they used to fight every game. Now it's rarer, but when it does happen, it's more brutal. I can assure you that. Right. Any other comments? By the way, if you've been following the tennis, Joanna Konta's been knocked out the first round of the US Open. So yeah, all that positive vibes didn't really work for her, did it? So if you're following tennis, Joanna Konta's out the US Open. Not that I actually am bothered, because she's a plastic Australian Brit, because the Aussies thought, well, she said, you're not good enough. So there's that one. But any more questions? Because I'm running out of things to talk about unless you ask me stuff. But, no, some good questions tonight. I do appreciate all the questions that you guys have been asking. They've been really good, and I'm happy to, if someone wants to check out any sport, I'm happy to point them in the right direction of said sport. So more than happy to do so. It's kind of interesting how we've ended up on hockey when we started out on football, but it's what it is. Right, if no one's got any more questions, I'm going to call it a night. So thank you very much for all the questions tonight and all the input. Really appreciate it. Really enjoy answering your questions and discussing sport with you guys. I know not everyone's opinion is going to agree with mine, and I appreciate that as well. And that's what the debate's all about, and that's what the channel's all about. So I really appreciate everything you've asked tonight. Really enjoyed it. Good as always. Thank you very, very much. And check out the channel this evening, over the next few days in the evening, because I'll probably have some more live streams. But it's great fun as always. Thank you very much. You made it a great live stream. Really enjoyed it. Have a good night, guys. And I will see you all soon. And check out the channel for more videos coming up as well, because there's always something happening in sport. There's always something to talk about. And of course, I will get the whiteboard out as well and do some old history videos as well, and look at some teams' histories and players' careers. So keep your eyes peeled. And I shall see you soon. Night for now.